Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tech United Live. My name is MJ Durkin, and I am the COO of Tech United New Jersey, and I'm very excited that you're all here. If I haven't met you yet, I just recently joined Tech United last month, and I'm excited to get to meet all of you in the coming months and years. And I'm really excited to be here with you all today. If you are new to us, just a quick explainer on what Tech United is and what we do. We are New Jersey's largest tech and innovation community, and we empower innovators, disruptors, and entrepreneurs across the state to build what's next through lots of things, including AI demo nights, the Propelify Innovation Festival, our Uplift Mentorship Program, which has applications open right now for anybody who's looking to start their own business, and conversations exactly like this one that will help us all learn and grow together. Today, I'm excited to have an all-star crew to talk about everybody wants AI, but almost nobody wants the operational burden and how enterprises can implement AI in an efficient way. Everybody's talking about how to adopt AI and how to win the race, and the demos are super impressive, but the deployments are often brutal. I'm guessing if you're on this call, you've probably seen the MIT stat that 95% of enterprise AI projects deliver zero return, because it's become the number of the year and a trend that is constantly in the headlines. An even more interesting question is not why projects fail, it's what the 5% that work are doing differently. And that's what we're gonna get into today. And I think we'll have three really exciting voices to help us figure it out. We have Jeff Weinstein, who's the co-founder and CEO of Transcend AP. We have Ben Hills, who's the founder and CEO of Hey Iris AI. We'll hear more about those folks in a moment. And I'm here to introduce our moderator, who's a friend and somebody that I trust to lead this conversation, Steve Sokolov, who's the managing partner at one of Tech United's great partners, Tech Council Ventures, and is one of the most active early stage investors in our ecosystem. And as I said, somebody that I very much trust to have this conversation and help us understand what companies like Transcend AP and Hey Iris are doing right in terms of enterprise AI. Steve, take it away.
Thank you, MJ. I'm really happy to be here to talk to the audience about these issues. And as you mentioned, we've got a couple of our portfolio company CEOs are going to join us here. But I thought I'd start just by framing the conversation a little bit. First, with the introduction of Tech Council Ventures. We're a New Jersey-based venture capital fund. We invest across the Mid-Atlantic region in early stage opportunities in healthcare, clean tech, and enterprise. And in terms of enterprise automation has been an important theme of ours for many years, and a very topical discussion today. I thought I'd frame this up a little bit by saying enterprise automation has been around for a long time. And just to talk about the last 20, 25 years, Salesforce launched in 2000 and kind of blew up the SaaS space and software as a service for enterprise. Then AWS launched in 2006 and started the trend towards collecting data, enterprise data, into a place that it could be analyzed, leveraged to improve the business. The notion of a data lake came around 2010. In the mid-2000s, we saw a wave of what was called robotic process automation with companies like UiPath and Blue Prism. And then, of course, in 2022, almost the whole world sort of noticed ChatGPT and the excitement that brought in terms of both consumer information and in the enterprise, the ability to apply AI ML to language generation, which is, developed a lot of coding tools, which is a limited language set that's been a good application for ChatGPT type technologies, but also a much broader language generation in the enterprise. And we're going to talk some more about that. In the last couple of years, we started to see agentic AI, where AI is actually making decisions in enterprise workflows. And last year alone, in 2025, the venture capital industry invested $240 billion in AI startups. Incredible number. That's about 2/3 of the total venture capital investment last year. A lot of that capital went into the foundation models for companies like OpenAI and Anthropic, but 4,600 companies raised money last year in vertical applications of AI, and 1,800 companies raised money for horizontal platforms for application across industries or across functions. So there's a tremendous amount of solutions being developed in this space. But as MJ said, MIT came out with a study last year that everybody is citing, that 95% of enterprise AI initiatives have failed to deliver value, and only 5% have found a way to create value. And so I think enterprises have a lot to learn about integrating AI and automating workflows. And I'm really excited to have two of our portfolio company CEOs here. Jeff Weinstein of Transcend AP is automating functions in the finance back office of enterprise. And Ben Hills is automating processes in the front end sales office of enterprise. So I'd love to have Jeff and Ben introduce themselves and talk a little bit about what your companies are doing and your views on this problem of implementing AI and automating workflows.
Sure. I'll go first, Ben, if that's okay. We'll go alphabetically backwards. If that's okay. Right? So Transcend AP basically specializes in accounts payable automation. And our scope of what we're focused on is really streamlining and providing cost efficiencies from the time an organization receives an invoice to how that invoice gets paid, and doing all we can to take away all the manual processing to make that work effectively. So right now, this industry is incredibly manual, and most companies, I think, that are listening today and people we talk to are doing, a lot of manual work, and the approval process is incredibly manual. We're adding intelligence on top of that to both capture invoices, read them electronically, capture those informations, and then put them in our system so the approvals can be routed very quickly. And at the same time, doing an extensive amount of integration into ERP systems, which hold that vendor master information, so we don't have to go back and forth and check things in the ERP system. So we're incredibly, there's a lot of integration, there's a lot of workflow management, there's a lot of digital transformation that has to go on, and so that's what we do. And then just one last point, I guess specifically, our market is really customers that have anywhere from 10,000 invoices a year or 5,000 invoices a year, up to companies that we serve have 1 million invoices a year. So we really kind of spanned a large gamut.
Thanks, Jeff. And Ben?
Awesome. Happy to be here. I'm Ben, founder and CEO of Iris. We're a platform used by sales teams to win more deals by generating higher quality responses to RFPs, fill out DDQs, security questionnaires, write sales proposals, and also save a tremendous amount of time. I would say AI is the reason why we could solve the problem in the way we solve it. Our ability to use LLMs to contextualize everything a business does, marketing materials, compliance docs, case studies, product sheets, use that to understand the nuances of the particular buyer's needs and story, and then generate higher quality content is all a function of LLMs being really good at reasoning across unstructured data, making sense of that context in real time, generating really high quality responses. I think one of the things going off the MIT survey that we experienced really early on is tools working is sometimes the easier part. Change management and integration into a large enterprise is actually the tougher battle in driving transformation. And so a lot of what we talk about with teams and companies is once they've tried our software, how do we actually make this process change, where the nature of our software is a lot of the interplay between teams fundamentally shifts because of how our product solves this problem. And so we're spending as much time on that change management of the enterprise as we are on the tool tech validation. As a company, we're also an AI native company. What that means is the way we use AI to operate every function, from engineering to sales to marketing to customer success, the way I understand our business with AI is fundamentally different from every other business that I've run. My last business was in the mobile and SaaS era, and our org chart looks different, our job descriptions looks different, everyone's day-to-day looks different because of how AI has helped us accelerate our business.
Thanks, Ben. Hey, Jeff, what's your take on the 95% problem, and how do you make sure you end up in the 5%?
You mean for a company that's, I think probably I want to go to the premise that, the bigger organizations, from all the things that I've been involved with, so half of our clients are $1 billion and the other half are under $1 billion. So I've seen it kind of both angles. On the $1 billion and upsize, I see companies trying to create centers of excellence around AI. And I think right now, what I can sense is that the centers of excellence do a nice job. I think we've all kind of talked about the idea to do demos and prototypes, and then it's hard to take that into a next level. Just like, I find it I don't think it's wise for a manufacturing company to think of themselves as a software development company. I think there's a lot of risk in that. Just like I don't want to have a CRM. I don't want to develop my own company's CRM system. I want to use somebody else's CRM system, because we're in the accounts payable space. So I think the way I think that organizations should be successful is to think of themselves and leverage their expertise to figure out how to partner with organizations that really know how to deliver those enterprise applications, as opposed to trying to figure out how to develop their own. I think they should take their skills and their know-how, and they could do things that may be prototypical and prototypes, and kind of collect all this information and all this insight on how companies want to see things evolve. But once they see that evolution, I think they should get to themselves and figure out how to partner with, as opposed to how to build. And I think that the challenge for right now is that technologists are on staff and they're thinking, okay, let me dive in and let's figure out how to do this, and I could do this. And I think the senior management needs to say, you know what, help us figure out how to get the best scalable solution in place, and let us be influential on what that means to us. And I think a center of excellence may want to morph more in that direction than figure out how to go down the path and have the operational burden of building something and then figuring out how to make it current and troubleshooting and all that kind of stuff. That's my take on it. So I think the 5%, I think they would be 100% successful if they take their energies and figure out what they want AI to provide, and figure out how to take prototypes that help them identify that, and then help companies that want to participate with them actually know how to create that for them. I don't know. What do you think, Ben?
Let me kick that over to Ben, because so Ben, obviously there are a lot of LLM tools out there for people to use, Claude or ChatGPT or whatever. And people are playing around and building their own things. Why is working with you as a vendor better than using these tools internally and building their own?
Yeah, great question. And every use case is going to have a different right answer as far as when to use something purpose built, when to roll your own. For us, our workflow is what we call a multiplayer workflow and experience. So the average company is doing hundreds of RFPs a year, involving dozens of different stakeholders on review cycles, approval cycles. That requires a system that has collaboration inside of it, has assignment management, task tracking, just a breadth of functionality that you don't get from a chatbot. Even on the core of writing an RFP and a proposal, what you get from an off-the-shelf chatbot is purpose-built for creativity, not accuracy. And so if you think about AI systems being on a spectrum of highly imaginative to highly deterministic, anytime you use Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini off the shelf, they're designed to be imaginative. You don't have control over settings like temperature, which is how much free thinking they do, or the system prompt, which is the guidance of that platform. At Iris, we've done all the research on how to configure the models, what models to use in different steps of the RFP workflow, how to set them up to be purpose-built for this. So out of the box, Iris is going to get you a higher quality, more accurate RFP. And so for many teams, they've tried custom GPTs, prompt libraries, all of these things, and found that the tech debt and burden of maintaining that is pretty insurmountable. Plus the lack of ability to work with your team in a chatbot makes it really not ripe for this particular business process.
Yeah, and Steve, just for our business process, the idea of creating, capturing and reading invoices and matching them up to vendor masters in an Oracle EBS system or in a Microsoft Dynamics environment requires a lot of technology, and it requires a lot of ingenuity. And when you kind of also, like Ben, we have a workflow process as well, where we might have 10 people in the AP environment, in the AP organization that might have 200 approvers, and you have to figure out who that gets approved to, what that looks like, what happens if that person goes on leave, what happens if that person gets sick, who takes over for them, what happens if it's a dollar amount that goes beyond that person's ability to approve it. So there's just a lot of intelligence that's built upon that also, I'm sure, like in Ben's environment, things change. And so you have to create an environment and a technology that also can adapt to that change. So you don't always have to keep fixing it and plugging it with more code, So
I think you both made the point that there's the sort of the core technology, but it's integrated into a workflow that actually operates with the team that's there in that process or in that function.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then just lastly, I think on my side, on my thing, we're dealing with accounts payable. I don't know how much organizations want to develop these kind of things that touch money and validating that people are being paid and not being paid, because the idea of security for us is incredibly high. The idea of compliance is incredibly high. The idea of just access is just, very rigid. So you got, those are layers that are put on top of this that go well beyond the demo and the prototype.
Well, let me ask you, I know that you've got, both of you have human in the loop in your products. And, in terms of both alerts, checks, approvals, et cetera. But you're both working hard to make your products better, make less mistakes, require less human in the loop, and maybe go all the way to the notion of agentic AI, where the decisions are made and processed without human intervention. So I'm really interested to hear, how are you improving your products to go down that path, and kind of where do you think we are in general?
Yeah. I'll give one example where we leverage agentic architecture to facilitate what would otherwise be quite a bit of human research, but then is still used in a human workflow. So when people go to write a proposal, they tend to start with what they call a strategy meeting, where they bring in the proposal team, the product team, the sales rep who's been working with the prospect, and they hit on a Zoom call for a few hours, and they're like, what do we need to know about the deal? And they're reading through all of their CRM notes. They're reading through all the calls they've had with the prospect. They're doing web research with the prospect. They're collating this set of basically a brief, and then starting to put pen to paper. We just last week rolled out a whole agentic approach to that step, where now Iris automatically reads every CRM note on the prospect, all of the calls you've had with the prospect, does deep research on the prospect, has access to your knowledge base about what you do as a vendor, and tees up for the company, hey, here's what we think is important to talk about in this proposal. Here are some points we want to clarify, like which stakeholders this is written for, what the goal of the proposal is. And that compresses not just 5 hours of manual research, but also goes further than a human team was doing beforehand. And one thing that's been really valuable about that use of agents is most of our customers say that strategy meeting we only get to do for the top 1% of deals. But if we could scale and do that on all of our deals, we'd increase our win rate on every proposal. And we have some customers that quite literally send out 22,000 proposals per year. They're only doing that manual strategy on the top dozen. But now with Iris, they're getting that level of sophistication on all 22,000 deals. So that's a really good example where the agent isn't replacing tedious work. The agent is taking high value, non-scalable work and allowing their then proposal team to use that on every proposal they write. And so we're not just removing some humans that are involved, we're actually introducing a whole new opportunity that humans just never had the brain space, the time, the capacity to do at scale across their whole customer base.
Yeah.
Thanks. And Jeff, how are you marching down that path to improve the performance of your technology and, allow, people to rely on it more reliably in the workflow?
Yeah, well, there's two vectors that we look at. We look at one which we call in-flight, and the other we call decision support systems. So the in-flight is when the AP process is going on, whether that's for a person who's on the AP team or an approver, what do we do in the process to help them do things faster, better, smarter, and give them information to do that or do something for them? And on the strategic side, how do we look at all the data that we have for suppliers, vendors, invoices, and approvers, and be able to give intelligence to the controllers and the VPs of finance to figure out where the opportunities are to either negotiate with suppliers better, how to streamline their operations, how to make sure that they feel like there's a supplier maybe at risk or somebody we're at risk because we have too much business going through this one supplier, right? So we have in-flight, and then we have a strategic component to it. On the in-flight side, a lot of the things that AP organizations are doing really do take a lot of manual work and investigation. And so what we're doing is when an invoice comes in, we're looking in that invoice, duplicate detection, tracking to see if there's a fraud detection, that we're able to look at all our collective data and see if there's something fraudulent here. And then even things down to a very finite, a very detailed level, which is when an invoice comes in, how do we easily know what GL code, general ledger code to match it to and do that automatically, right? So some things we're doing automatically, some things we're alerting people to that they would not have been alerted to before they go on in the process. So for some processes, we might have a stop sign that says stop, don't do it. Another, we might have a yield sign that says, hey, check this out before you do it. And those things really kind of help people, making sure that there's no fraud, making sure the numbers are correct, and that the process gets moving along smoothly and efficiently. And these are things that are cumbersome for organizations to figure out. And it's also incredibly difficult to figure out at times, right? For fraud detection, we would be looking at something like that this supplier has typically given us, let's say, bills between $5 and $500, right? And that has happened 95% of the time. And all of a sudden, the bill comes in for $2,000 or $3,000. Is that fraudulent or not fraudulent? How do we identify that, right? So we look at patterns and what that means. So I think we're helping the AP and the finance department do things better, and not do things instead of. So I think that's what we're thinking through.
And are your clients the functional leads, the head of sales or the head of accounts payable or someone senior in a finance function, or is your client an IT person, bringing this workflow into their organization?
Well, I think for us, we work with usually a controller, an AP supervisor for a larger company, a VP of finance, and then we do work with the IT group because we are integrating with typically their ERP system that they have some kind of ownership over. And then also our environment's in the cloud, right? So everybody wants to, go through the cloud process on how it's going to integrate. And now what we're seeing is a lot of audits and a lot of forms were asked to be filled out about how we're using AI, which is the latest thing that we've seen over the last 2 or 3 months? Like, is there security? Is there data protection? What are the guardrails? Is their data going to be exposed and used and seen by other people? We have a lot of clients, a lot of big clients, and they don't want all the invoices that they have to be used to cook up for somebody else's efficiency. So we have to really kind of be very, very, very diligent on making
I think
sure.
Ben can speak to that, given the evolution he's seeing in the RFPs that he's helping his clients respond to.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's one, the volume of RFPs that clients are responding to has just increased dramatically year over year, particularly as the compliance world gets more complicated, and the complexity of each RFP has increased pretty tremendously also. And so as procurement becomes more difficult, more industries are becoming RFP dependent. The RFPs are getting harder, and they're also becoming more important. We have many customers where, because they didn't have a system managing this pre-Iris, they didn't know what their sales team was sending out to prospects until they got to the kickoff call with the post-sales team and were told, here are all the commitments that were made, promises that were made, et cetera. And so they looked to Iris as a place to actually have this transparency layer where now they can govern everything that's going out to their customer base, know that it's accurate, compliant, approved by someone, have that full audit trail, which is, it's just like an inherent externality of centralizing this process in one place.
And I think you're seeing a lot of your clients having to respond to questions about AI compliance.
Oh yeah,
selling to their customers.
Yeah, we just did some analysis on the AI questionnaires some of our customers get and showing the increase in what types of questions they're getting, and also just how that's trending. And now, almost 100% of buyers have a set of questions. Is my data being used to train a model? How are you ensuring it's not? How are you ensuring the training data is clean? I mean, the questions buyers are asking are increasingly sophisticated and intricate, specifically because of just the fear of the unknown with AI right now.
Yeah. Let me slip in. We're getting to the end of our time, but I'm really interested to hear in the conversations you have with your clients, how much they're thinking about what you're offering as augmentation of their workforce or replacement of their workforce, which is an issue and concern that a lot of people have.
Yeah. At least for us, everyone sees this as augmentation. Tier 1 is time savings. Second order effect is actual increase in win rates. Because most of our customers were seeing such an increase in workload, but not the ability to hire more people, Iris is coming in to reduce the burden on existing teams. There are scenarios where they've then been able to scale top line without adding headcount. Like, hey, because we have Iris to handle our proposals, we can enter a new vertical, a new market segment. We would normally add some wraparound support services, but now we don't have to because Iris can handle that work for us.
Yeah, I think on our side, I think the people are initially going in saying, okay, how do I make my workforce better? And and in our situation, AP organizations really have been, neglected on the kind of technology they've been given to do their jobs, right? Because it's usually viewed as a cost center. Now it's viewed as more of now in what we're doing, AP organizations are seeing more as like an opportunity, how to negotiate better with suppliers, how to do all those kind of things. And so I think our people that talk to us, one is they want to streamline the cost and make sure things are more efficient, give their teams more tools so they don't have to keep burning them out, right? And then from there, we see that they quickly are going into, okay, how do we get better deals with suppliers? How do we, make sure we have better risk management? How do we do all those kind of things? And every company has its scale, right? A medium size, a small university has one set of objectives, and somebody like a big manufacturing has, more maybe have more ambitious objectives. But we see it more like, let's improve it all. Let's improve what we're doing. Let's improve what we're doing.
That's great. And we have one question from the audience. Ben, what LLMs are your favorites?
All in on Claude. The beginning of this year, we standardized our whole company on Claude. Everyone was using their own tool beforehand, but we saw massive gains by having everyone sharing the skills out of one instance of Claude, the shared memory out of Claude. And so we now use Claude for all of the internal operations.
Yeah, on our side, we do a lot with Claude. We do a lot with ChatGPT. I think it's different. There's different segments. So for us internally, so I had an April Fool's joke that I played with my team that went a little sideways. I said, hey, before you do anything, before you go to a meeting, before you pick up a phone and talk to somebody, before you have a question, and before you go into a meeting and you want to talk about your own personal life, go put it all through ChatGPT and see what it recommends that you actually should be talking about. People thought that I was actually telling them that's what they needed to do. So we went. I was trying to be a little provocative, but we use that. We use different tools for marketing, different tools for our development team. But we're all in on the whole AI and helping it improve our team and making better products for our clients.
Thank you.
By the way, Steve, just so you know, I did get 2 emails from people I sent that to, and they said to me, "Are you kidding?" And I said yes.
That was probably ChatGPT generated.
Right. Yeah.
So MJ, I think we're about at the end of our time. And
Yes.
I just want to thank you guys for showing up and having this great conversation. You guys are really at the leading edge of enterprise automation today. And so thank you. And I'm Steve Sokoloff. Anyone can reach me at steve@techcouncilventures.com. And Jeff and Ben, any final comments?
Yeah, well, for me, thanks for having us on, and it was great talking to you. It was a real pleasure, and nice doing this with you, Ben and Steve. Thanks for the great, thoughtful questions. It was really a lot of fun. You can reach me at Jay Weinstein at transcendap.com, or just visit transcendap.com and fill out a form and ask for me. I'd be happy to get back to you as well. But this was a lot of fun, and looking forward to doing more with you in the future.
Likewise. Yeah, great to meet you, Jeff. Thanks for having me, Steve, and the Tech United team. Reach out to me on LinkedIn, email me, ben@heyiris.ai, and would love to show you our platform.
Amazing.
All right.
Thank you guys
Thanks
so
a
much
lot.
for taking the time. I really appreciate the conversation. And even though you all are at the bleeding edge of enterprise AI, you made this conversation super digestible for those who are not. So appreciate you doing that. Jeff, I really appreciate the comments you made around knowing what you actually want out of AI before implementing anything. I think that's so critical to this process and often skipped when things are moving so fast. And Ben, oh my gosh, I wish Iris existed when I was running RFPs at Google many years ago. You would have saved me many months of time, it sounds like. Steve, as always, you are an expert moderator, and it sounds like you have a couple winners in Transcend AP and Iris, and I'm excited to see where you all go. Everyone else, thank you so much for joining. These things are happening and evolving very quickly, and we are trying as much as possible to help make it easy and accessible for you to learn alongside us. If you want to be part of the conversation moving forward, make sure you subscribe to the Tech United newsletter. Come check us out at one of the upcoming AI demo nights, and reach out if you want to be part of a conversation moving forward. Otherwise, thank you all for coming, and have a great rest of your day.